Hello, welcome to the Gorgeous Goddess YouTube channel. This is a very impromptu video and it might be part of a series called Breakthroughs as They Happen video. And I just wanted to make this video because I've just literally in the last half hour found a new way of dissolving the ego very quickly. So I just wanted to share it. So I hope this comes through a little bit coherent. And it's to do with really undoing the base source of the ego. So I might offer a little bit of explanation, and I have to say a lot of the concepts that are going to be in this explanation, we could do a video on each one. So this might feel a little bit rushed, but I'll try to as succinctly as possible walk through these concepts and then explain what just happened. So if we look at our ego, so the starting point is that we are all one consciousness. And obviously, when we're all one consciousness, we all have absolute love for each other here on earth and every being, wherever they are. Obviously, when we embody, we can create an ego. And the way we create an ego is through accepting the illusion of separation. So when you are not experiencing that we are all one consciousness, you could create a vibration or act out of a vibration that is out of alignment with everybody being one consciousness. So you can act against another person, which is really like acting against yourself. And if you experience somebody else acting out of a lower vibration, it could also, when you don't know that, look, the truth is we are one consciousness, that person is just acting out of an illusion. When you come here and you're in a body and you forget all these spiritual truths, you can, in that, limited perspective that you have, when everything is mediated via your brain, you're not, outside of a body experiencing the reality of oneness. You're experiencing things through your senses and you're interpreting them in another way. And when you have an experience of somebody else acting out of alignment with that we are all one, you can allow into your mind, well, that person must not love me, or that person, we must not be one because that person's acting against me. So in response to those kinds of situations, we can start taking on beliefs that we are not one consciousness. And we start creating an energetic structure that we then start to see through. And we start to experience a reality where we are not one consciousness, where we are separated, where we are separate beings that can act against each other. So when we are in our spirit, when we are in the truth of who we are, when everybody is aligned with the truth of who we really are, that we are one consciousness, and that is the truth that cannot be changed, because our Creator created us all as one consciousness, so that can't be changed. And when every single, let's say, if every single being on earth aligned with the truth that they actually cannot affect, if they were to align with that, it would be impossible for anybody to act in any way other than with love to another being on this planet. So that is kind of the ultimate truth where we're all going to get to. But when we don't recognize that truth, we create energy structures that we call an ego that recognize a different reality. Oh, that person is acting against me. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe they're going to reject me. I can't be that thought in itself creates the illusion of separation, because if I was one with that person, how could they be acting in a way that seems like I am being rejected? So the moment that we recognize another person's actions when they're acting out of their own ego, when we recognize that as coming from some sort of reality, we then no longer perceive that we are all one consciousness, and we kind of accept that we must be separated. So separation is at the root of our ego. So, and every part of our ego is based on some illusion. It is an illusion, it's based on real, maybe, things in the physical, but those things in the physical aren't aligned with the ultimate spiritual reality. It's only really what's happening in the physical is only temporary, and anything that happens here that is below, that is treatment that comes out of anything lower than unconditional love, is just people acting out of illusions. So even though, when we say illusions, it seems like, oh, well, did that person not really hurt me? Did that person not say those words? Did that person not strike me? Yes, that physically happened. But all the meaning that we make out of it, that, we are not one with that person, or that person doesn't love us, all of that is an illusion. And even if that person thinks they don't love us, because the truth of how they were created by God is as one consciousness with us, out of unconditional love for the entire kind of body or spirit of, I guess, God, that person doesn't even recognize the truth that they hold in their soul. So they are, so it really is, the poor treatment we experience, any kind of conclusion that we draw out of it that pulls us out of the truth that we are all unconsciousness and that we are deeply loved by every single being, is really not true and is an illusion. So I hope that makes sense, how something can be an illusion but can still be based on real things that have happened. It's not that the behaviors didn't happen and we've just imagined them, but it's kind of the consequences that we draw from them. So how does this relate to letting go of the ego? So, when you want to let go of these dense energetic structures in you, there's a few different steps that you need to take. But one of the steps is to let go of the kind of like the lie that you accepted into your being that that caused you to be able to create a structure at that vibration. Because if you keep holding the vibration and the thought that we are all one consciousness, you cannot create like a part of your personality or ego that feels threatened by anybody, right? So, you can go along and look at these individual kind of beliefs, like somebody may hurt me, and then undo it by saying, oh, nobody's going to hurt me, they really love me. You can go along individually, but you can also just go into the truth that we are all one consciousness, and that actually seems to take away and undo kind of any false ideas. You don't have to identify them individually. You can just go into the idea that we are all unconsciousness, and that has the ability to undo any false beliefs that our ego was based upon, like a generic cure-all, perhaps. What is actually happening behind the scenes as well is when you are holding the belief that we are all one consciousness, you're looking at that another person, and despite their behavior, you are saying to them, well, that person is incapable of hurting me because we are all one consciousness. And when you bring faith to that belief, and when you actually give up any sense of threat, right, you are aligning with that truth so powerfully. You're vibrating at that, and what's actually happening is that truth is sitting in that person's being as well, right? Because that is what they were created. Now, when you think about another person and you hold the truth that you and that person are one consciousness and that they are incapable of harming me, they love me, despite anything that they're doing. Now, that energy that emanates out of you, what it actually does is it almost, that energy, that thought energy or that belief energy or that vibration that you're holding will actually cause resonance inside that other person's being. And what it will do is it does actually activate those feelings in the other person. Now, as you hold that belief, which is a really high frequency belief, you're actually manifesting your reality with quite a high level of energy. So as you hold that, you are completely not threatened by anybody, because we are all one consciousness. You're actually manifesting circumstances for yourself in a really powerful way. So you can actually cause miracles that way, because that belief is almost like pulling on the consciousnesses of the other people to recognize that truth as well. It's almost bringing out the best in them, because here we probably need to get going a little bit into energetic resonance. So if you Google examples of resonance, physical resonance on the internet, you can find some really cool videos that explain this. But I'm just going to talk you through one example of resonance. So I think every physical substance has like a vibration that is its resonance frequency. So if you take a glass, it's got a resonant frequency, but here I'm talking about sound. Now, if you ding the glass, it'll make a sound. But the interesting thing is that if you play a sound next to a glass at the exact frequency that is the resonant frequency from the glass, so it's the same sound that the glass would make. So even if the glass hasn't been dinged and it's completely silent, if you play a sound at that frequency, the glass will spontaneously start to make the sound without being dinged, without being physically touched. So what it's saying is that sound energy at a certain vibration will cause this glass to vibrate, because the sound is coming with the exact same frequency to make this vibrate. And that's called resonance. That happens in the physical world. So with energy that is emotional or thought energy, or even higher levels of energy beyond thought that you're emitting out of your being, the same kind of resonance happens with other people. So if you ever wonder why you get together with a group of people whinging, and by the end of it, you are also feeling really whingy, it's because their energy that they are emitting is causing the energies in your being that are at the same frequency that were sitting there dormant. They weren't doing anything. You weren't experiencing them because they weren't vibrating. They weren't giving a signal off that you could feel. They were just sitting there kind of inactive. When you're with people and you're interacting with them, and their energy is being sent to you, and they are complaining about someone, and they're in, so-and-so, it's so unfair. Everything in you that's at that same frequency starts to vibrate, and then it's like it comes over you. You start to experience it. You start to feel the same way. And the way that happens is through resonance, because their energies is actually activating those same energies in you, even though you might have been in a good mood and all of that was just sitting there dormant. But the same thing can happen with positive energy. So if you're there and you are thinking about another person that previously you thought was threatening to you, the moment you let go of that and you hold the highest possible truth about the two of you, because if you imagine that there's different types of beliefs you can hold about that person that have different frequencies. So you can hold the belief, that person, even though they're being mean to me, they're doing their best. That kind of, the vibration of that thought is better than that person's a total bitch and I really hate them, right? You can come up again and say, oh, well, that person does love me deep down. They're just not experiencing it now. Well, that's also a bit of a higher vibration towards that person. But, then you can experience a higher thought, which is, oh, look, that person, I'm just making this up as we go, so I hope I can come up with the right thought that's a bit higher than that. That person is really a good person. That's kind of feels a bit better still, right? Oh, that person is just like me. That's probably even higher, right? Now, then kind of the highest thought that you can have when you're thinking about another person that aligns you with spiritual truth and also gets you into a high vibration is that person and me are one. We are one consciousness, right? They're not just like me. They are me. It's like we are all part of the same plane of consciousness. And look, and the way that this oneness was shown to me was like a plane. And that we may be different parts of this plane. You know, I may be this little rectangle over here in this plane. That person might be this rectangle here in this plane. But the consciousness stretches on between us, and via that consciousness of God, we are connected, we are part of this, and there is actually no separation between us. We are one. Okay? We may temporarily be experiencing different parts of this plane, right? But we actually have the ability to extend our consciousness via this plane to actually overlap each other, which is why we are one. Now, see, when we're in a physical body, it keeps us very stuck in only this part of the plane where our kind of originating consciousness is, where our individuality is. You know, once you're no longer stuck in the brain and the body, your consciousness can actually kind of expand along this plane of consciousness and contract. You can actually expand your consciousness so that you are actually experiencing and aware of the consciousness and being merged with all the consciousness of all other beings. This is why we are one, and we cannot experience that as a body. So even though we may be different parts on this plane and we cannot kind of experience that merging, understanding that plane actually connects us does actually it does signify that truth that we are actually one consciousness. And just to throw in a few more little tidbits around this, when I got shown this plane of consciousness, the way it actually got shown is, I've got a little card here, because I'm in my office, because this actually came as I was doing my actual paid work, right? So the way it actually showed this to me is it showed me little rectangles like that. I kind of shaded them. It didn't show me the shading. But what it kind of said, and ignore these lines, that's just because it's a card. Now, what it showed me is, look, you are like a rectangle. Okay? Now, I said that the top part of this rectangle is the higher self. The lower part of this rectangle is you. And what it actually said is, look, even though you are focused here and I am focused here as your higher self, just notice that there is no separation between us. We are part of the same rectangle, and there is not a place at which I as your higher self end and you as the lower self, as the extension of me, as this individual consciousness begin. So it said, even though here is your individuality anchored in this part of the rectangle, but just notice that there is no division between this part of the rectangle that is my consciousness and this part of the rectangle that is the consciousness of my higher self. It was a really beautiful understanding. And then it showed me and said, look, other people are just the same. You know, they are also connected to their higher selves with no separation, even though they're locating themselves, say, in this part of the consciousness. And then they were saying, see, the plane is actually all through here. Let me just kind of just draw some lines, right? So I've just shaded it in to show you that this is a continuous surface. Now I'm focused here. Here's the focus of my higher self. But this plane of consciousness is completely connected. And so therefore, I'm connected to this other person, but via this continuous consciousness. And it's only actually... wow, I didn't know we were going to get into this in this video, but we are. So it is actually only the fact that I'm in a physical body, identifying myself as only this, that makes me feel like I'm separated from this person over here, and makes this person over here feel like they're separated from me. Now, what we do is we kind of create these lower energies in this spot that kind of set us apart from the plane. If you can imagine that this plane is actually at a particular level of vibration like this, when we create ego structures, imagine that it's like if we imagine that as we go up, so I've kind of rotated this plane now, right? The plane is at this vibration. It's the vibration of unconditional love. This is where our souls exist, at this vibration. But so this is just kind of like a graph of it. But when we create ego, we kind of create something down here. And you see the ego, it's at this vibration. This vibration is not connected to the plane. When you create something that says, look, I am less than, I'm unworthy, other people hate me, you create energy that kind of, if we were to graph it, would sit kind of here. And can you see it's not connected to that plane? It cannot, when you're looking through it, you cannot see the truth that we are all connected, because this part of the ego actually doesn't understand it, because it's at a level of vibration where there is no connection to everybody else, right? But the moment you let go of that and you kind of identify this reality, you are now, you are seeing kind of like a spiritual reality, right? So the reason I explained all of this is to kind of give you something to hold on to. So when you're trying to say we are all one consciousness, this is one way, a representation like a diagram, that you can conceptualize that in your mind to help you to hold that concept in your mind and to hold that vibration. It's probably not the only one. It's just the one that worked for me, a way of conceptualizing it so that I could hold on to that concept. But what happens is when you are able to hold on to that concept, when you look at another person, right? You don't have to look at that lower parts of the ego that they created as the truth of them. You can just hold the vision that they are this rectangle of purity that's connected to you. And when you do that, that vibration that you are sending to them is actually causing resonance in their being of that truth inside their being. Because that truth is in them. When they were created at this energy, and that truth is in them, right? So not only when you hold that vibration are you able to let go of all of the other illusory beliefs that has caused your egos, you're actually pulling and you're actually causing everybody else to subtly experience that. So you are actually, it's like you walk through the world, and when people are with you, they experience the best parts of themselves. They might even around you feel emotions inside themselves that they've never even experienced in their lifetime. And they may act in ways out of that vibration that they've never acted before. And then, when somebody stops acting in their habitual way and starts acting for the first time in alignment with that we are all one, we call that a miracle. And by you holding that vibration, you've just caused a miracle. So it's like you've manifested, something that's aligned with the vibration that we are all one, right? So by holding that vibration, you're actually helping that to become true in your life. And look, it doesn't have to happen, because somebody might feel that vibration and it might actually make them, they can use their free will to reject it, or it might feel scary to them. It might go, ooh, their other parts of the ego might go, no, this is not safe. So it's not guaranteed that will happen. But man, if you are activating in people the parts of themselves that know that we are all one, that we love each other, I would rather be going through life like that and then, kind of allowing their free will to do with that vibration whatever they will, than to be holding a lower vibration and to be activating in that other person parts of them that are aligned to, we hate each other. That's my personal choice. But, you can't be attached to the outcome, but I think it's probably increases your chances of good things happening to you. That's my view on it. So this kind of this video ended up having a lot in it, but I guess the point that I tried to make is that if you are able to accept and hold that vibration that we are all one, in holding that vibration, a lot of parts of your ego can be let go of just by holding that truth, then you just have to ignore the things that come up in you that says, no, I'm unsafe, right? And, you know, one way of dissolving that is to hold this concept, because when you hold the concept of we are all one, you're emitting energy into your being that's at a super high vibration, and it will slowly dissolve those parts of your ego that you have created. So it's a way of it's like a way of dissolving your ego, and it kind of works on every part of your ego, because what it does, it goes to the root. So I guess summing this up in a quick way, and all of this is just getting clearer in my head as I try to explain it here, so apologies that it's kind of all over the place. But if we understand that it doesn't matter what particular part of our ego we are looking at, what specific flavor of it, what false belief, you know, I'm unloved, I'm unsupported, you know, I'm alone, I've been abandoned, blah, blah, blah. If we say that the root of each one of those false ideas is that we are separated, then if you hold the vibration and the thought and the concept that there is no separation, we are one consciousness, then that thought has the potential to undo every single different type of false belief. So it's like a universal tonic. So that's why I think it's really quite useful in terms of dissolving the ego. Anyway, I'm probably just going to post this in this rambly state, and I hope that you are able to follow me through this, but I just felt like I needed to share it pretty quickly as I experienced it. All right, thanks everybody. Bye.